Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back. So I was inspired to do this video from an observation I made this week. Actually, I think it was on Thursday. I was headed to my internship site in Lower Manhattan. I was on the train. And I unfortunately got a chance to witness this very disturbing interaction between a black mother and her teenage son. And it just made me think. And granted, this topic I've come to you guys and talked to you guys about before, about why black men hate their mothers. Why adult children hate their parents, right? Their mothers. And so this topic is very closely related to that, on why black men hate black women. Granted, hate is a very strong word. If I were to ask you guys to name at least 5 things that you absolutely hate, not dislike, because dislike is one thing, hate is something else, I think most of you guys will struggle with that. Can you name 5 things that you hate? It can be things, it can be people, it can be places, it can be experiences. Just 5 things that you hate. I wonder if you guys could really come up with things that you can actually name readily, easily, right? I think most people wouldn't be able to do it, or they would have much difficulty naming things that they absolutely hate. I know I would. So I don't know. You guys are different. But speaking for myself, I think it's difficult for me to actually name 5 things that I actually hate, including people, right? Because I just don't have it in me. But I get that black men do have this disdain. And hate is beyond disagreement. It's beyond dislike. It's beyond frustration. It's beyond anger. It's beyond annoyance. I think all of those constructs that I just named can factor into hate, right? So, given a certain degree of frustration, of annoyance, of dislike, of anger towards something, you can actually develop hatred towards that thing. And hate, we know, is closely associated with aggression. People tend to internalize or externalize their feelings, those strong feelings of hatred that they have towards someone, through aggression. Externalizing would be acting out, right? Aggressing towards someone. Sometimes, unfortunately, people internalize those feelings of hate, so they harm themselves. But either way, whether they choose to cope with that strong emotion of hate by externalizing, acting out, fighting, hitting, aggressing towards someone verbally, emotionally, physically, or whether they choose to internalize that by harming themselves. So they may take to alcohol, drugs, but it's still hate there. I want to talk about that for a minute. Hate, like, that's a very loaded emotion. That's a very loaded mental state that a person can be in. To hate, to have hatred towards someone, right? To have hatred towards a thing is one thing, right? Like, black people may say they hate racism. They just hate it. It irks their nerve. It's just, it does something to them. Like, when a person hates something, you can easily destroy something that you hate. If you have that strong of emotion towards something, you want to get rid of it. It's not difficult to get rid of something that you hate because you hate it. Some people hate the smell of certain things, right? Whether it's freaking marijuana, whether whether it's cigarettes, they just hate it. They just like, they can't stand it, right? They just would do anything to just get rid of it, to destroy it. But to hate an individual, and not only that, but to have to generalize that hate towards a group of people, right? A group of people who are a reflection of who you are as a person. As a black man, we're talking about black women. To have hatred towards them. That's pretty strong. That's pretty heavy. So, like I said, this topic was inspired by an observation I made. I was on my way to my internship site in Lower Manhattan. You guys know I'm training to become a clinical psychologist. So I do go into the office, even though I work from home most of the time. I do go into the office one day out of the week. And on that day, I was on the train, and there was this black mother with her son. And usually the train ride is pretty quiet. It's a pretty swift train ride. It's about maybe, I don't know, 10 to 15 minutes. It's very quick from my place to where I actually work at my internship site. Very convenient for me. So it's a pretty like relaxed ride. It's quiet. It's in the morning. People are just like focused, you know, getting their minds set for the day. And here I hear in my ear this nagging noise of a woman sitting beside me, a black woman sitting beside me. And it's not unusual to hear people talking, right? To hear frustration, disappointment. Like, that's not uncommon to hear that on a train, right? People in New York tend to really express themselves. They don't care who's listening. They don't care who's watching, who's recording. They don't care, right? People in New York tend to be in their own bubble, in their own world. So they don't really care. I wouldn't say they don't have an awareness of who's around them. They just don't care, right? She clearly did not care who was watching. As she was having this interaction with her teenage son, young black man. He couldn't have been no older, I would say, than 13. I would give him maybe 13. And listening to the way she was talking to him, that it broke my heart. It got my attention, obviously, right? But I'm thinking, okay, she's just scolding him. Just a quick scold. Done, right? One and done. You say what you gotta say to him, one and done. No. It went on for the entire ride. From the point I got on the train, sat down next to her, to the point where she got off at her stop. And her stop was a few stops before mine. So we can roughly say about 10 minutes. And who knows how long she was going on and on before I got on the train and sat down. Right? Who knows? Because the train that I get on, I think it comes from the Bronx. And it goes through Manhattan. And I live in Manhattan. So who knows? Maybe she got on in the Bronx. But God, can you imagine it going on from the Bronx all the way to Lower Manhattan? I'm just like, it's unbelievable. Like, I just couldn't fathom it, right? So I'm listening to her, and she's like in his ear, and she is not even at an audible level that is, you know, personal and private, gives him a sense of privacy and her sense of privacy, right? So other people can hear. She's at a level that everyone on that train could hear what she had to say to him. And she's saying, you don't take the trash out at the house. You need to take the trash out. I'm sick and tired looking at the trash just sitting up there piling up. You didn't take the trash out. And it was just all about him taking the trash out and him cleaning his room, but more focus on the trash, right? The trash. I just kept hearing the word trash. You didn't take the trash out. The trash. It's just piling up. I'm tired of telling you to take the trash out. And it just kept going, like she kept repeating it over and over. I was just like, This can't be real. And poor little man was just sitting there. He's sitting there so humble and just taking it in. And I mean, he's listening to her. He apparently has to be listening to her, right? Because at one point, and this is when I felt like the heavens just opened up. The angels were rejoicing. I was rejoicing on the end. My spirit was just leaping for joy. Because at one point, this courageous kid interrupted her and said, Mom, can we wait till we get home to talk about this? And I was like, yes, finally. Like, I was just rooting for him on the inside. But I think it was interesting to see like that dynamic play out between this mother, this black mother, and her son, given that obviously she clearly has more power over him. She's more dominant than he is, right? She has the authoritarian power over him. It's like, you do what I say or else, right? And one may look at that encounter as like, oh, he has much respect for his mother because he was just listening. He was just taking in what she had to say. He wasn't talking back. He didn't have an attitude. Like, he didn't have an attitude at all. I mean, some kids probably would have got up. Man, fuck this shit. Leave me alone. Don't be talking to me. And he was clearly like humiliated. It was like humiliation to the 10th power, yo. I know I would have been humiliated. It's like, seriously? Like, on the train? Like, all these people? And, yes, people were watching. Like, you can't help but notice it because she, like I said, like, her volume was at a level where everyone could hear what she was saying. So people, like, trying not to, you know, give attention to the situation, but you just can't help it because it's just like, or like, I think people felt more so for him than necessarily what she had to say. Just like looking at him, like people was looking to see what his reaction was, because poor man, it's just like, you know, I felt bad for him, and I think I felt pulled in the direction of like wanting to advocate for him and to intervene. Sometimes it's best not to say anything, but I was so happy when he stood up for himself. He advocated for himself. And like I said, like they were sitting directly next to me. It's like, I'm here. He's here to my left, right? I know it's reversed on the live, right? But he's sitting to my left, directly to my left, and she's sitting on the other side of him. So they're right there next to me, right? And I felt like, I just, like, part of me was just, like, saying to him, like, maybe telepathically, like, he just could read my thoughts. I don't know what it was, but it's just, like, it's like, as I was thinking it, just, like, it's inappropriate for her to be doing this, right? On the train, like, this is not the right place. Come on. Give him a break, yo. And at the moment, like, I was thinking it, he said it. He said what I was thinking. He was just like, can we just wait till we get home to talk about this? Dwayne, it is a shame. I mean, I felt like, I get it, like, with parenting, because I don't have kids, but I understand, like, you have to have structure, right? Like I say, you give a kid an inch, they'll take a mile. Like, you have to be firm, but it's just a time and place. The kid was not, at least from the point when I got on the train, like, he was quiet, he was sitting there. It wasn't like he was acting out or being disruptive or doing something out of place. It just clearly seemed that she just was in her emotions, right? And I felt like she kept saying the trash, and in my mind the whole time I'm thinking like, it's not about the trash, yo. It's not about the trash. It's not about the trash, man. And she, we're making a lot of assumptions here, but just putting two and two together, I wouldn't be surprised if she's a single black mother, right? And just taking, like, projecting this anger, this frustration that she has onto him, and she's using the household chore of taking out the trash, like, as she's hiding behind that, when really it's deeper than the trash. It's deeper than him taking out the trash. And it's just the way she was, like, like, the way she was berating him, and the way she was, like, just lashing out on him, like, publicly. It just felt like he was her husband. Like, this kid he's a kid, you know? And if a person didn't look that direction, like if I didn't look over that direction, just hearing her say that, it would sound like an interaction between a woman and a man. That's what it sounded like. And that's what made me think, like, connecting the dots. Like, it makes sense that, okay, he's a child. And he's had to live with this for many years. With the nagging, like, I mean, I get it. Yes, parents have to set rules in the house. There are rules in any household that a person lives in, right? But it's just how you go about doing it, how you go about enforcing it. I just feel like that was just completely wrong. You guys comment below. Let me know what you think. Like, let me know. Like, in public and on, like, non-stop. She just kept repeating. And then when he stood up for himself and he said, Mom, can we wait till we get home to talk about this? And then her response was, oh, well, when you're at home, you're always in your room. You're locked up in your room, so I can't talk to you. I'm like, seriously? So you feel you can't reach him because when he's in his room at home. Seriously. So you choose to do it on the train when you know he's defenseless on the train, right? Like, there are bystanders, something happens, like, come on, people will probably take her side, because how many people really have respect for kids, right? Like, children really in our society don't have a voice. It's like what the parents say goes or else. And it's a shame. Like, it's really sad to me just to see that. Like, I felt like I just had empathy in that moment for him. I just wanted to give him a hug. I don't know what this kid is like at home. I don't, right? But I just felt so bad for him. And he's just taking it. And it just reminded me, like, I get it. Like, I connected the dots. And this kid is eventually going to grow older. He's going to become a young man and an adult. And it makes sense. Because you hear adult black men complaining about black women. They're argumentative. And I know, I'm a black woman myself, so I know, like, it can get to us, right? Like, we can get triggered and we're like, oh, well, aren't women from other races that same way? Latino women are the same way. What? It's like Latino women are the same way. White women are the same way, like exotic women from other countries, it's like they don't nag, like they're not argumentative. But when you think about, trace back to a man's childhood, right? These same men who have that ideology, who have that perspective towards black women, and you trace back to their childhood, like connect the dots, like it makes sense. Because it stems from something greater than their current interaction as an adult with black women. Granted, they may have dated a black woman who was nagging and bothering, but I think that wound probably was was scratched upon, right? Like that nagging of an adult black woman who a black man dates probably was scratched upon, right? Like, while she's nagging and take out the trash and you ain't shit and da-da-da, and it's like constant, right? Like, it's one thing to communicate, because communication is important. So to express yourself and let a person know, alright, I'm back. I had to lower my volume so you guys won't hear every single notification that comes in. But it's one thing, yes, communication is important. So it's one thing to express yourself and let a person know, like, this is what I'm thinking, this is how that experience or what happened or what you did made me feel, because you can build upon that. You can grow from expressing your thoughts and your feelings towards a situation or a person, right? That serves its purpose. What's another thing when you just keep like hashing, like it's something underneath that. It's something else going on there. Dwayne says it happens so much that it's normal behavior given the fact that we were brought up to respect girls and women. Yeah. Crypto, you may not hate black women, but there are men. And the thing is, a black man will never say, oh, I hate black women. Some do. Now, some are very vocal and very honest and have owned that and have accepted that hate. Because that's another thing, like an emotion that is so heavy, it's difficult. And especially when you know there's stigma attached to that, right? Like you're going to be looked at a certain way, viewed a certain way if you verbalize, I hate black women, right? That's just like saying, oh, I am a gay black man. Like, it takes a lot of courage and acceptance and security within thyself to express that kind of level of emotion, knowing there's a certain degree of stigma attached to that. Doesn't mean that that emotion doesn't exist within you, right? People sometimes deny what they feel on the inside because of certain repercussions or how they're going to be viewed, but that doesn't remove the fact that it's there. And so, yes, it serves a purpose to be expressive and communicate oneself, but at the same time, it's like, at what point do you draw the line? At what point do you realize, like, it's just, that's too much? And yes, there's a connection when you see these black men who date black women and it begins to scratch the surface, like, that nagging begins to scratch the surface. It takes them back. They become triggered, and it takes them back to how they were. Because a man, like, a part of what it means to be a man is to feel powerful, right? To feel in control. To have a sense of autonomy. I mean, in general, irrespective of being a man or a woman, in general, people, human beings, part of what gives us a sense of identity is having a sense of autonomy, independence from your parents. Being able to make decisions on your own. Being able to make choices and say you have a right to say, okay, if you don't like something, to be able to say that. If you disagree with something, you have the freedom to express that. But when that ability is tampered with, you know what I'm saying? When there's a stronghold on your ability to do that, that's when those feelings begin to emerge, right? You may get annoyed. You may feel frustrated. You may have some anxiety there. A lot of young black boys experience anxiety growing up in these kind of households. This is what needs to be discussed. We're not saying all black men, but we're saying black men, some black men, this do exist. And so I think it's worthy of noting that, having a discussion around that, because if you don't talk about it, if you don't have a discussion around it, it just continues to persist, right? Like, you can't change what you don't acknowledge, and many times people are just in denial. They don't want to look at that reality. They don't want to express that reality, accept that reality. But it does exist. And so these young black boys, unfortunately, like, they are growing up in this environment. And it's clear that it's obviously not all black boys, but we're talking about the ones who this does impact. And like I said, this is an observation that I made. And this is just only one that I'm speaking on here, but this is not uncommon in black households. And I think that we do have an issue of pushing things under the rug and like, oh, no. So I feel for these black boys who are growing up in these households, right? Because that's where the seed is planted. That's where the seed of hatred is planted. It may not manifest itself as hatred at that point when he's, let's say, 9 or 7 or 10 or 12 or 13 years old. It may be annoyance, a seed of, it's just, you're annoyed, right? You're disappointed. Maybe you feel betrayed. All of these emotions, like, they begin to water that seed. All these experiences begin to water that seed on top of each other, you know. And then, of course, you're going to be attracted to women who resemble characteristics of your mother. Oftentimes, adult people, like, no, I don't like this about my mom, right? I hate this about my mom. And then they end up being attracted to that very person who resembles their mother. That's the ironic thing. It's just like, because it's hard to differentiate between the loving aspect of a person, the nurturing, the caring, and the bad aspects of a person. Like, the lines get blurred and it just become this person, right? So you find yourself being attracted to people who have those negative characteristics and may embody positive characteristics, right? Of your mother or just of a ideal in general. And you attract those kind of people because that's what resonates with your psyche. That's what resonates with that template that has been embedded into your subconscious mind, into your psyche, on what love looks like, feels like, smells like, sounds like, talks like. And you fall in love with that. But then it becomes toxic because it's just a repeat. It's just, okay, here's the same old scenario being played out over and over and over again. And once you have one too many experiences of that, right? It's only so much that a human being can take, right? Like, I know they say when a woman's fed up, but men can be fed up too. When you go through the same experience, the same naggingness, the same disappointment, the same feeling berated, like you're not feeling valued as a person, right? Like you're encountering the same person and just complaining about all the negative shit that you do. Rarely even highlight the positive, right? Because there's one thing as a parent to highlight, okay, you did this wrong, or I expect this from you, right? That's called correction, correcting the person's behavior, right? I think children should not be beyond reproach or beyond correction. But if a parent that's all the parent is doing, right? Because oftentimes that's where parents slip up. Because they give so much attention to the negative within their child, they neglect the positive. They feel like, oh, that's what a child's supposed to do anyway. A child's supposed to listen. A child's supposed to do their chores, clean their room, take the trash out, wash dishes. Say yes, ma'am. Go to school. Their child's supposed to do that. Granted, but at the same time, you're supposed to go to work. You're supposed to perform well at your job. But doesn't it feel good to, get positive reinforcement? It feels good to get that. So I think that it's important for parents to utilize positive reinforcement, like catch your child doing something good, whatever that good may be. Acknowledge that. Let them know that you see them. But if you're always constantly nagging, you did this, you didn't lock the door, you didn't take the trash out, like, come on. That is going to affect the person's psyche. We can't ignore that dynamic. That's all I'm coming to you guys with. And then as a child, when a child experiences that degree of annoyance, bitterness, and it evolves into hatred. Hatred is just like the other end of the extreme, right? But it begins to pile up. Like, as an adult, they're fed up. They're just like, I want something different. I don't want to deal with this. That's the last thing they want to deal with. On top of, we didn't even begin to talk about the systemic pressures of our society. We're just talking about the dynamic between a black mother and black sons, right? And then how that evolves into black men when they grow up to become men, and when they attract black women, and that relationship begins to manifest itself. It's just there's a repeat. The cycle continues, right? Not even talking about the outside of that, right? On a macro level, what's happening in our society, and of course how the black man is targeted. I think it's just almost as if black people can't feel. We don't have the right to feel. I just saw a post from one of my colleagues in my program, right, who is aware of the events that are happening, the police killings that are happening, despite the pandemic that we're under. It's just an ongoing thing, right? Like, police brutality just doesn't go away. And so she made a comment on her Facebook post to say she wants to grieve. She wants to express her anger. She wants to be able to have a conversation about these events, but she knows that if she does, it's going to become a distraction. Like, she's not going to be able to finish her semester. She's not going to be able to have the energy left, the attention left to be able to finish her semester. So she chooses to kind of put that on the back burner. She chooses to ignore that. Kind of compartmentalize that, right? Put it to the side so that she can focus on finishing her semester successfully. I don't think, like, sometimes we don't get to feel. I don't think people understand the gravity of what it means to just be a black person, to exist in our society. We're under so much, as I think we've been strong for so long, and I guess when we do begin to talk about it, we do begin to put it into words, it's perceived as, oh, they're complaining, or they're being weak, or here we go again. Who wants to hear them talk about Black Lives Matter and complain about all the pressures and racial oppression? So people just don't. But it doesn't mean that just because we're not talking about it or complaining about it, that we're not feeling the pressure of it, that is not impacting us. It shows up in other areas. Because that's the one thing about energy, like they say, energy is neither lost nor destroyed, right? So when we experience stress from whatever, from parental pressures, from societal pressures, police interactions that we have, what have you, work, it matters how we deal with that, right? Because if we don't deal with it, it manifests itself in many different forms. It may manifest itself in medical conditions. When you see people who have a significant degree of medical conditions, we're talking about high blood pressure, diabetes, overweight, obesity, all of these things, hypertension, heart attacks, that comes as a direct reflection or a result of societal pressure. It's stress. It manifests itself in different forms. That's one manifestation in terms of medical problems. Substance abuse is another manifestation of stress. So no, a person may not be complaining about, oh, I've had a hard time in life. I feel depressed. I feel overwhelmed. I have anxiety. They may not express that in words, which is more helpful. That's the reason why I chose to enter the field of psychology and become a therapist, because people undermine and underestimate the importance of just talking to someone, expressing it and being heard. Not only talking to someone, but feeling heard, feeling under that connection that happens when you're expressing, your pain that you felt from childhood, growing up without a father. There's a degree of pain there, Not having another person who is compassionate to be able to feel that pain with you. To provide comfort towards you. That matters. You hold it inside, but it manifests itself in different areas of your life. People turn to drugs. That's more so like internalizing the emotions. Like you're inflicting pain upon yourself, because it's better to be in control of your pain, right, than to not be. So that's one way of feeling that you have a degree of control over that pain. I've had patients say this to me. Like, I use drugs, I abuse crack cocaine, I abuse coke, whatever their choice of drug is, because it gives them a sense of control. Now, it may not make sense, to the cognitive person, the cognitive mind, but it makes sense to the individual who this situation is impacting. It makes a lot of sense, unfortunately. This is how human beings respond to pain, to pressures of life. They turn to many different things. It may start off as, just experimentation. Let me see what it's like to take a hit. They take a hit, or it makes them feel good. There's an escape. And then it becomes an addiction. It gives them a sense of control, because they can't control the outside, the external world. So that's the one thing they can control. Some people inflict pain by self-injury. They cut themselves. They ingest prescription medication. They overdose. They take painkillers. But all of this is just to say that there's something going on the inside internally, psychologically. But unfortunately, I think within certain subgroups of people, within certain subcultures, we just shy away from talking. Like, no, let's talk about it. We have been conditioned to just accept it. Just deal with it on your own. Who cares? Like, you're being weak. You know? Our pain isn't taken seriously on so many levels. On an interpersonal level within the family unit, parents don't take their children's pain or distress seriously. They're just like, you're being lazy. Get your lazy ass up. When that laziness just might be depression. Depression is a biochemical problem, right? There's an imbalance biochemically, neurologically in the brain. When a person has depression, especially severe depression, there's a depletion of serotonin in the brain. But people don't see that. They just look at that person as, oh, you're just being lazy. They don't understand it. So on that level, yeah, parents do dismiss that reality of their children. You know what I'm saying? That experience of their children. Just like, oh, you're being lazy. You're just being tough. I think because we have been conditioned as African American people to just be tough, to be hard on our children, because we had to do it. So you grew up that way. It was that way when you grew up. Your parents were that way towards you. Their parents was that way towards them. And you trace back and you can find where the root is. But we have to have compassion. Compassion makes a world of difference. It shows that you care. It's not that you're coddling. Because I think sometimes parents are afraid, like, oh, I don't want to coddle my child. I don't want to coddle them. I don't want to make excuses. But so you're going to be overbearing. You're going to take the other extreme of coddling and just being overbearing and being a freaking complete asshole of a parent. These are things that should be talked about. Of course, in a safe space. But parents dismiss their children's experience. Our experience as African Americans has been dismissed on so many different levels. The media, they disregard it. It's just like, it's not even a deal. I mean, just look how they handle these cases that we see in the media, but look at their response to how they handle. They just don't care about our experience. They don't care. If they care about Black lives, there will be no need for Black Lives Matter movement. They don't care. Even in the healthcare system, we are treated differently. They don't acknowledge our pain. It's almost like we're inhumane. We have been dehumanized. And we know where it comes from. But it's just been passed on. These ideologies, these perspectives, to how they have treated our ancestors has been passed on. And they treat us this way. The society, the system treats us this way. We have internalized and learned these ways of interacting with other people and treating each other this way. And then it passed down to the way we interact and treat our children. We treat our children this way. It's like, where is the love? We got to care about ourselves. When we have discussions like this, I think oftentimes Black people, we come to the defense and say, we care. Not all Black men hate Black women. So that's like a defense mechanism, right? Because you want to advocate for what you do right? You don't want to just be thrown away. That's not what the purpose of this video is. To just say, oh, Black man ain't shit. I don't have that perspective. I'm pointing out a very specific thing that I observed. An interaction I observed more recently. But it's not just that one interaction. I've seen this. This is a pattern that I've noticed. But we accept it. It's just like, all right, that's just the way it is. Nothing wrong. Or perhaps you're more reluctant to accept this reality and discuss it because we're doing it over this platform, right? We're on social media, so it's like, shh, don't talk about this in front of the white people or other people. It's not their business, so you deny it publicly, right? I get it. But if it was more of a private setting, okay, well, maybe you might say, all right, well, yeah, we do that, right? I mean, it's the truth. There are a growing number of black men who do hate. They hate. They may not say, "Oh, I hate." They don't. May not say it in that way, but their actions say it, and how they treat black women, especially compared to other races of women. We don't hate our women. We're just tired of being belittled. See, that's what I'm saying. It's like it's hard to say you hate something. Goes back. You guys got to go back and watch. Once I end this video, go back and watch the beginning, because what did I say? I say it's very rare. Like if I were to ask you guys, I'm doing it right now. Name 5 things that you hate, including people. It can be people, places, things, experiences, whatever. Just name 5. It's difficult for people to say that they hate things, especially people. I get it. But if you hate it, you hate it. If you hate it, you hate it. So the rational mind, of course, will do what this person is doing to say, oh, we don't hate the person. We just hate the behavior of the person. That's the rational mind. I get it, right? Because you don't want to experience a negative reaction. So you say, oh, you hate the things that the person does. But if that person does those things, they become inseparable, right? Those things become that person. Those things are a reflection of that person. And you get to a point where you can't live with the person. You say, okay, you hate those things, and he began to name. We're just tired of being belittled, hearing, seeing, and feeling how much some say they don't need us. Tired of the system, being bent in mainly y'all favor. I get it. Hold on, he wrote a lot. Tired of being unable to get help when we struggle, just like you, and sick of hearing how you sick. See, you're sick of it. You're sick of it. You just want it to end. You're sick of it. Of hearing how useless and unskilled we are, when most men of today have been raised by women and can cook, clean, and raise kids successfully, just like a woman, thanks to women. That's all I think. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. Thanks for sharing, because this is the truth. This is how you feel. It's important to just say what it is. Who cares? Who cares what somebody may say? Who cares if there's a reaction to you saying that you have this hatred towards a person? There are children who hate their parents. And they have every reason to. I'm not here to judge. I'm the last person to judge. I'm just having a discussion on this based on an observation I made when I was riding on a train this week, where this black mother just completely humiliated her son. He had to be, like I said, 13 years old, and just, oh, you didn't take the trash out. You don't, like, she kept, like, when I say, like, on and on, it's just like, I feel like that was abuse. I feel like it got to a point where it's just like, it could have been emotional abuse. And then I felt like I rejoiced, like I said earlier, when he just stood up and he's just like, can we talk about this when we get home? I felt like we just had like this spiritual connection where he just was, because as I was thinking that, like, this is inappropriate. She should have this conversation with him at home. He said it like he spoke what I was thinking. I wanted to clap. I should have clapped. I was just like, I ain't gonna do it. You know, I'm headed to my internship site. Like, I'm not trying to fight. You know, I ain't trying to fight nobody. You know, because I will fight. Oh, I will. I will definitely fight. But he deserved a standing ovation for that. I just like even young black men, you know, or even teenagers developing, you know what I'm saying, into young black men. Like, I just like when black men just stand in their masculinity, you know what I'm saying? Even if it comes to how they respond to their mothers, just stand up, you know? Because no, it's not a woman's place to make a man feel this little. I don't agree with that, even if he is a son. I don't have kids, but I imagine when I do, and especially if I have male kids, No. That's where a man comes in, right? I feel like a man can do that to, his son. And he will most likely have respect for that and most likely receive it. And it probably wouldn't even require all of that nagging. Like, a man can say things one time. I learned that growing up in a two-parent household where, like, yo, my dad didn't even have to do all of that. My mom, she's doing too much, right? Usually it just takes a man one time to say something. Children will respond to that. Because along with manhood has been associated like this sense of power and authority. And, you have single black mothers trying to walk in that authority over basically men. Like, they're boys. We look at them as, well, they're boys. They're not men yet because they're not 18. But no, these are like, yo, they have that masculine energy in them. Like, they're young men. Even if they're like 13, they're young men. It's just like, it's not a natural dynamic, right? When we think of nature, you can't fight against nature. Nature is going to happen regardless. You can't, that's not your place, Like, you can provide nurture, love, care, support. But when it comes to, like, you trying to dictate what a 12-year-old man, son does, like he's developing. He's at that point where it's just like, seriously? That's where the man plays a role. I feel like if a man was in that household, she wouldn't even have a need to be on the train doing all of that. It's going through one and out the other, but he was listening. I felt, if anything, he felt embarrassed. That's why he got to a point where I think he just couldn't take it anymore. He just was like, Mom, can we talk about this? I'm just like, yes. He was respectful, though, in saying so. He definitely was respectful in saying so. We know how valued we are. You are everything. We are everything. We just have to act like it more. Yeah. Not hate, just tired. There's a difference. You say you're just tired. Okay, let's go into that. Like, if you're tired, that's another emotion. That's another feeling. You feel tired. You're burdened. Like, all of these emotions piled up, right? Eventually, it can transform into hate. And, of course, one may define hate in one way. Another person could define it in another way. But the way I described it earlier, it's just like, it's like you're fed up. You're tired. You're fed up. You're just like, you want to get rid of it. That's how you know you hate something. Because you would easily get rid of it. If you had a magic wand and you can just disappear, get rid of the thing, you would. That's how you know you hate it. You don't need it. You can live without it to the extent where you don't want it around you. You detest it. To an extent because you realize that it becomes a threat to your existence. When it becomes a threat to your existence, it makes sense why you would hate it. It's a threat to your existence. Black men do see black women in our modern society as a threat to their existence. There's a whole movement. Look it up. MGTOW. Men going their own way. MGTOW. And there's a black male version to it. I forgot. I did make a video on this maybe a couple years ago. But there is an acronym for the black man's version of MGTOW. Which MGTOW really has been spearheaded by white men who are fed up with white women who they've been married to, taking half of their freaking income in the divorce proceeding and feeling like our society does operate in favor of the woman. Hence feminism. That's where feminism came about, right? So men are fighting back. These movements that these men are a part of are in response to feminism. There are men who hate women. Hate is a strong word, so I know a lot of us have been conditioned to say, oh, don't say that. Don't say that. No, you hate it, you hate it. Many men will be like, I can live without that shit. I can live without you. I hate you. You don't love. Do you love her? Do you love these black women? Or maybe you have a desire. Maybe you want to love, but maybe you I mean, you do realize that both can exist at the same time, right? You can have hatred towards a person, but also have a desire to love that person too. Or you can just flat out hate that person and be like, I don't have any interest in loving that person, right? Both can exist at the same time. And it's okay to say you hate something. All it means is just that you have very strong negative feelings towards that person. And it may even evolve into anger, where you want to punch that person in the face because that person makes you feel a certain kind of way. It's okay. It's better to admit it, you know what I'm saying, to go to therapy and talk about it, to get it out, to really get to the root. Because under hatred is just hurt. You feel hurt. So you transform the hate into verbalizing, I feel hurt by you. Like, I'm hurt. You hurt me. I'm in pain. I could never hate my black man. How he could hate me is crazy. I've been here since day one. I've gone through the trenches for them. Yeah, I mean, we ride for our black men, you know, but it goes deep. So when you have black men, adult black men, who exhibit hatred towards black women, it goes beyond that. Just know a lot of things go beyond the present moment. It stems back. You got to go back. Go do some history. Go do some research on that person's history growing up. You know, their experiences after childhood, through adolescent, young adulthood, it built upon that. But no, that hate goes deep. It goes deep. It's deep. That's why it goes deep, because when you're working with it in the present moment, right, when you're addressing it or confronting it, it's not something you can just easily kind of just scrape off or just put a band-aid on, you know, or give a little hug. Just all he needs is a little hug, just love, give him a kiss, they'll be fine. No, that ain't enough. You know what I'm saying? If the hate was something more recent, stemming from something more recent, that's all. I mean, you can easily just, you know, scrape it off a little bit, good to go. It goes deep. You gotta go. It goes deep, and when things are deeply rooted, it's gonna take years of healing, years of therapy to reverse that. It could take a lifetime. You know, it's just about expressing compassion. Like, I get it. I get it. I get why black men may hate black women. That's all I'm saying here in this video. I get it. I understand it. Like, come on. We're just human beings. We're just humans. Who the hell want to be humiliated? Made to feel less than, like not appreciated. You don't feel love. Like, when a person is showing you all of this negativity, and that person is your mother, and you have an expectation of something different, yeah, you have the right to eventually feel like hatred, like, I can't stand you, like, get away from me, like, you know. I think that is more accepting, I think, in certain cultures. So let's say Caucasian culture, for example, you know, they express their emotions. They're like, I hate you, mom, you know, and we're like, what? You know, because I think religion does play a role. So, of course, religion, like Christianity, Islam, has trained us pretty well, you know. Don't hate your parents. Love thy mother. Love thy father. Like, they force you into these experiences, right? As a guide, right? They're guiding you. And that can be a good thing, right? To have that guidance. But I think it undermines, like, what you feel internally. Because religion is saying, love thy mother and thy father. You should love. And if you don't, then you're a sinner. Like, you're doing something wrong. But what about your human experience? Like, what about how you really feel? If you really feel that, should you just brush it over and just like, all right, religion says I should love them. Yes, that's ideally, right? That's a goal. But it doesn't mean that you can't have hatred, because that's a human experience. So if you recognize that you have these strong feelings of hatred towards something or a person, acknowledge that. And then you can work towards the goal of loving that mother, that father, or loving that black woman, loving the black queen. How can you love something that you hate, though, and you're not even willing to acknowledge that you hate that person or that thing? We got to get to the point of acknowledging it first and say, yeah, I do. I hate it. I hate you. It is true. You say you give them that look and then they straighten up. See? That's powerful. Like being a parent, it's a skill. I think it starts early on, though. I think you got parents that they fucked up when the kid was born and didn't set the structure, the rules, and they try to implement these rules later on down the road, and it just doesn't land. It's not landing, you know what I'm saying, with the child. It's just the child is confused. It's just wait a minute. All these years, I've been able to do what I want and manipulate the situation, and now you're trying to enforce rules and structure? It's confusing. Can't do it like that. But that look, that's basically classical conditioning that you have done with your children, Dwayne. Being able to just look at your child, well trained, That's like being a master at behavioral conditioning, shaping human behavior. You say I would never have a child without a man around to raise them. Yeah, that's so important. I don't have kids because I'm very particular about that. I'm just I don't believe in perpetuating generational curses, right? Granted, I grew up in a 2-parent household, but just looking around, just seeing people just be out here having babies, and raising babies by themselves, and it's just, I don't think people understand the importance of it. Yeah, society does put a stigma in it. But I think it's better to just acknowledge that feeling than to brush it up on the rug, because how can we move forward? But it's not easy. I ain't trying to say, it's easy to be I hate you, to say I hate you. It's easier to say I don't like you, or I don't like what you do, or I hate what you do. But if that person does that thing over and over, that thing is just that person. It just may just be who that person is. I forget about everyone else's experience. It is deep. Us childless women are feeling the realness of the feminism. They claim, I've never had a part and it would have never served me. I just don't want to be a part of that. I have nothing to do with it. I'm here for support. Yeah. You say your father taught you that look. Yeah, because the look has consequences, right? And a child who is very perceptive to that look is a smart child, right? So that child can pick up on that nonverbal cue of the look and feel what it, not only see that you mean business, but they can feel that energy. You know what I'm saying? They can feel that energy on that level, on that spiritual level. And they straighten up. My mom had that look too, So I think that does go a long way, but I feel this can be a 2-part conversation. I am about to go ahead and end it here. I just think that it was important for me to bring it to everyone's consciousness so we can talk about it. It can be an ongoing conversation. It's important. And also, before I end this, it reminds me of a clip that I saw on social media. It was of a play. It was a scene in a play where, this is what I remember from it, where the black father was telling his, I think the son probably was an adult, young adult son. He was just I don't gotta love you. I feed you. I take care of you. I do all of these things. I don't have to like you. I think he said, I don't have to like you. And it's just the son was trying to feel connected to his dad, because he was expressing how he just doesn't feel like his dad likes him. He was just I ain't gotta like you. I take care of you. And then I think, and you know, in our community, like, we associate, oh, I feed you, I clothe you, roof over your head. That equates to love. Not even understanding. Love goes deeper than the basic needs. Those are just the basic needs. You go up a notch, like, we require more than just the basic needs of having food and shelter and clothes on our back. What about the need to feel accepted? The need to feel appreciated, loved, nurtured in an emotional way. We miss that part. And we miss it because it hasn't been shown to us. So oftentimes it's just a cycle that's perpetuated on a subconscious level, not being aware that we as adults love our children the way we've been loved. So if we grew up in a household where we were beaten, and that's how our parents showed us how they love us, that's what we do to our children. We feed them, we beat them, we discipline, right? We provide shelter, food, discipline. That's love. Forget the hugs, you know. So when we become adults, that's what we interpret as love. And wonder why women attract men who are abusive, sexually, emotionally, physically. Because that's what we grew up. Like, we have to break these cycles. It's not to say that, oh, our parents did a terrible job. We're not here to judge. This is not the point. We're just here to acknowledge some areas for improvement and how we can interrupt certain cycles. Because that's the whole point of each generation. We're supposed to improve upon the previous and get better in advance. Right? I think sometimes we experience this cognitive dissonance when we think about the way our parents raised us and then how you repeat the same cycle of how you raise your children. And a lot of adult black children will never admit that the way they were raised maybe wasn't the best, right? Because you don't want to label your parent as a bad parent. I get it, because you love your parent. You love your mom, you love your dad. But maybe there were some things that they did or didn't do, perhaps, where they slacked out. That's important. Kids need that physical touch. Not just when they're doing something wrong, but just in a neutral sense, you know? Just sitting around on a Saturday. Just give them a hug. And I know as kids get older, they're like, hold on, Mom, like, I don't want those kisses. I don't want those. But it's funny because I grew up, like, my dad gave me kisses. Shit, he still give me kisses, like, on the cheek, sometimes on the mouth or whatever. As an adult, I'm a grown-ass woman. Some people might say that's inappropriate to kiss your kids on the mouth, but it's an expression of love and care, right? It's not like an open mouth kiss. It's just, you know, I love you, daughter. You know, I care about you. And hugs. You know, hugs are important. When's the last time you gave your adult child a hug? When's the last time you've told your child, I love you? Or do you feel like, oh, it's just enough to offer a meal? They know I love them. I ain't got to say it. No. Saying it and hearing. Hearing, that's important. That they hear, because when they hear those words, it goes to their mind, their psyche. It becomes a memory embedded. And it shapes their perspective, how they view the world, how they interact with people in the world. It does matter. And especially when they can feel it. Right? They know that those words aren't just empty words. You're saying, oh, I love you. But it's followed by action, too. So it's paired with action. Verbal action. Love. I'm going to end on that note. Catch you guys later. I love you guys. Bye.